Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Let Me Hear from Doc. I'm your host, Amanda Japal, and with me is the one and only Dr. Keith Claudius Mitchell. So, Doc, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, of course, and looking forward to another one of our episodes.
Well, I am looking forward to hearing more of your story, your life
Yeah,
story, your history, everything in one today.
yeah.
Um, so let's take it back a bit, and let's go back to your childhood. What was a typical day in your life as a child?
Well, first of all, I think it's all traced back to my mother, who's head. Basically, you can say was head of the household. She managed every aspect of the home. Six of us, three boys, three girls, and she was what you call the person that dictates what happened to our lives on a daily basis. So our father was the man providing the resources. He worked extremely hard, but it was what you call a farmer in those days. And farming was not in a scientific way. They worked very hard. Production was not as good, and the resultant material benefits were not as good as you have today with the science associated with agricultural activities. So she ensured that in the morning we get up, the first thing you must kneel down and pray. And if you don't, then the strap is going to get you up very quickly. Um, and then we had our different tasks to perform. Um, for example, the boys had to feed the cows. We had some cows. So we had to go find the food stuff, whether it's um, blogger stuff that were the blogger already cut. So that was obtained, or the grass. We want to get loads of grass, and that's for the cattle for the day. So it's a lot of work from 5 o'clock right until about 6:30, quarter seven. You get back home to then get shower and so on. And those days you didn't have shower. You did not have shower, so you literally had to be going in the Bushes River to bathe. And you can imagine, take a time like now. You know how cold it is outside there? Yeah, it is extremely cold. So sometimes you go to bed, man, and the water is there, and you take a little bit, and you take a little piece, and you take. Well, it's
I
tough.
have been.
Oh, I have been, but I mean, you try your best under very difficult and trying circumstances. And that you have to come back home and, of course, dress and get ready for school and so on. And therefore, that was a thing. When you get back home in the afternoon, well, you have your homework to do. Those days, I mean, children never left a classroom without homework, whether it's the arithmetic, whether it's writing assignment, whether it's English composition, or whatever they were, the general knowledge, all aspects of schoolwork, you had to do that. But that was done after you go and repeat the task of the day morning, which is take care of the animals, see that they're tied appropriately. The goats and different animals that we had to see that they're taken care of, and so on. And these are some of the things. And then after that you get again ready to do your schoolwork, whatever schoolwork assignment you have in preparation for school the next day. You had to do this, and again, then we all had to get back on our knees again before night time. That you had to before you go to sleep, you must pray again. So we grew up in a very religious home. My mother was a very strong Catholic, and she saw to it that we follow the Catholic Christian values of praying in the morning, praying in the afternoon, and churches on Sunday. You could not miss Mass on Sunday. That's something you could miss. And I remember a story. My father used to go to church that much, but he was a church religious person. So I remember one day we were objecting to go into church. and, and my father intervened and wanted to beat us. We say, you're not going, you're not going. And she threw it at him. She said, well, you see, the kids are growing up and you're not going, you're not setting an example and so on. And again, life was tough. You're living in a pretty, well, a random shack, so to speak. And those days, the first house we had, the coverage of the house was cane straw. It was no galvanized. And that's why in 1955, when hurricane came, our house fell very easily.
Right.
And we had no, say, toilet. We had a pit. We had a pit. We had to go and use the pit. And a piece of board on top of it. And one day I fell down inside. I fell down inside that pit, and the workmate can't stick soap on for almost almost a few hours to make sure I was devoid of any serious disease, so to speak. But that sort of thing, it sort of strengthened you growing up. But your life was not simple at all. We had to struggle. We go into school. I remember when I was going to school in St. George's, we had to we had no money next time for transport. So sometimes you have a little 10 cents and that you had to keep for bus and for buying something for lunch. And there was a little shop in St. George's at lunchtime. If I didn't get the bus to go back up to Happy Hill for lunch, you come back for 1 o'clock because school finished at 12. So if you miss the bus, it's one bus. That means that you have to find something to eat because school is over at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and you can't stay hungry since the morning time you left home and so on. So I used to, but I never forget this little shop, not far from the Purcell's store in St. George's, a little cafe like they used to sell some cheese and biscuit crackers. So I'll go and buy up 2 pennies worth of cheese. In those days, the cheese used to melt. It tastes nice. So, and then I had the biscuits, and then she had some, I don't know where she got, whether it was natural orange or what orange. It was sweet. But it was good because I loved it. Because by the time you left there with the biscuits and the cheese and the sweet, well, what you call sweet orange juice, you were fortified, ready to go back to school and to start working again. So these stories are things that you can't forget because it has made you a lot the person that you are. So it sort of make you realize if you really, sometimes you hear people complain, young people complain about the things, just struggles that they have. And I said, you guys don't know about real struggle. And when you tell them, sometimes they don't believe it because they see you as someone who was chief prime minister and they don't understand what you had to go through. And I remember one day to my son, who was maybe about 10 years at the time, and I was giving him the story of the struggles that we had and where we were living. And after I finished talking to him about the struggles, some of the things I just told him, he said, Daddy, tell me another Tim Tim. I said, yes, it's Tim Tim for you. It was a real life story for someone like me. And a lot of the young people would understand. But it taught you lessons of sacrifice. It taught you lessons of hard work, that you don't get anything easy. Anything too easy, you get it, may not last. So especially when you struggle for something and you achieve it, it becomes a lot more meaningful for you. So these are some of the things that I had a grandmother who was a fish vendor. She was in the fish market in St. George, my mother's mother, and I used to call her grandma. And so when I was going to college, when I didn't get sufficient monies from my mom, whom I go by the fish market, she'd always have a few cents for me, so we could buy little things and so on to nourish ourselves during the day going back. So that's what I always consider my grandmother as one person that I always remember, because she was a big lady. Size of persons like that, they don't live long, but she lived about 97. She was a very caring person. She used to take, besides taking care of a lot of her grandchildren like myself and so on, she would meet children in the street, and take them and bring them home. So she took care of a lot of kids, in addition to us, who were really not hers, or blood connection, but she had that sort of love for people, and she was like a village grandma, so to speak, in Brazil. And so these is the stories that you get because of what I came from, because of these stories that you meet every day and you see every day, the things that you pass through. It is not difficult for people to understand that my emphasis and concentration in government and in any position that I'm in, that I tend to have a very soft feeling for the poor persons who are struggling. And I remember when I was teaching at Presentation College after getting A levels and so on, and I used to be angry with a poor boy, a poor person in a class that I was teaching, was even fooling around with kids who I felt whose parents were better off. And I used to tough from them. I used to be tough. And unknown to me, some of them were not happy. They felt I had something special against them. So I remember one day, after I came back from university, the first time to do my bachelor degree, I was home for the August holiday. I went to a shop in St. George's, the guys socializing, having a drink, and I met this guy I used to teach. And I found him, I offered a drink, and the guy refused to take it. So I thought it was rather strange. And then me and the guy I ignored him, and we started there socializing and talking about our days in school and so on. And then maybe after a time he felt that more comfortable and pulled me aside. He said, I really had hated you. I said, why? He said, because you were picking on me in school. I said, you know what, let me tell you, I'm not surprised you're saying so. I don't remember the incident. But I know you come from very poor parents. And I saw you fooling around in classroom with people whose children whose parents were well off. I know when they leave school, they're bread butter. Because I know some of us went to school and we came out of school with A levels very well, because we come from poor family and our skin color is very black. We go to the banks and they wouldn't give us a job. That's a fact. Whereas the other kids who were living from St. George's, who were clear skin and whose parents had worth, so to speak, could walk in with 2 levels.
Yeah, so they were biased.
I never forget a situation where I applied for a job after doing A levels in Barclays Bank. I never forget that story. And so when I applied, the advertisement was out for the job. So I applied and with 3 A levels and chemistry, physics, math, submitted those. Within 2 days, I got a reply to come for the interview. In those days, you don't have a lot of clothes. So I fixed up the best little dandan pants that I had. And those days, there are some pants that kicking for easy, so you brush it off, make sure it's well fixed up, and so on. I put on my little dandan shirt and so on, and I grease my hair, man.
You went all out.
I look like a coolie like you. So I went in and presented the best, had the best dress and so on. So I walked into Barclays Bank. I'll forget this. And I went and I said they asked me, the lady can say, they said, that was the manager's office. And she said to me, what can I do for you? I said, come to see the manager. You come to see the manager? So I said, yes. She said, what's your name? So I said, my name is Keith Mitchell. You work in She can't believe that results at the way levels. This black stupid little boy can come talking about he come to see the manager. Manager? So he tell me, hold on. Hold on. So I wait. You went inside just to tell the manager I'm there. It took about 10 minutes before she came out. Obviously, when they gave me the whole description, and this is black outside, they say, come and tell him who I am and so on. So then he called me in. The gentleman started telling me why I want to work in the bank. I said, well, because I love banking, and so on. I gave him all the nice story. He told me, well, the kind of qualification you have, if I was you, I'll go to university. I should work. The man advised me like my father, man. So I said, well, help me with the money to go to school. I get money to go to university and so on. So it was, these stories are important because you see, it tells a story about life in our country. That there was a lot of bias against poor people, children trying to come from certain strata in the society. From Brazil and from Happy Hill, and you're black. Your chances of getting opportunities were not good at all. So these are things that touch your life. The good thing is that it did not make me have hang-ups to the point that it affected how I dealt with people. It just strengthened my resolve. Sometimes you meet things in life that affect you so much that it can in fact affect you, how you treat people and how you react to people, and have sort of negative effects on your personality. I can't say it did. Maybe I understood the system at the time and therefore understood why these things were happening and so on. So this were some of the things that I had to endure growing up. And I must say, though, the fact that we had to do all that work, going to school and helping our parents, we had lands in the mountain, way past Granville Vale in the Bacano area, up Mondo and past Mondo. And they had nutmegs up there, grandparents. So we had to go and pick up, and they had lands there. Sometimes they grow pumpkins, yam, potato, and we had baskets and baskets of things. We had to tote it like donkeys back down to Happy Hill, in through the stones and the bushes. There were no road. And therefore you had to do this and at the same time do all this and get ready to go to school afterwards. So this experience, so the only good thing is when I reached about 15 and going to 16, I was fortunate to get to because of cricket. I was identified as being an excellent cricketer. In fact, at 16 years, I was picked to represent Grenada in cricket. I was the youngest person, probably maybe the youngest person at the time, whoever represented Grenada. And because of that, I used the cricket to get away from a lot of the work. So, because the father was an ardent cricket fan, and he was really happy to see me. His son had the opportunities. So whenever I went away and the radio was on playing, and I was on, and I mean, they all were attached to the radio. So I got away from, in a latter part of my teen life, when some of my brothers didn't escape some of the hardship of the land and having to tote all these loads going back and forth to home, from home to the garden and others. But all this meant that it gave us a lot of reason to feel that, we made it through hard sacrifice. No one gave us anything. No one handed you some gift. You had to really work hard and put your best foot forward if you want to be able to have the opportunity. And people therefore wonder, despite my achievement over the years, in whether it's academic, whether it's sports, whether it's in other areas of like politics, I've always remained the same person. Because the position you hold is in life in certain things sometimes comes because of the sacrifice and support of others, not necessarily all by yourself. And in fact, you have to see it as whatever opportunity and achievement you have to see it's like God-given successes that He gave you, in my opinion, that's how I see it, an opportunity to help others. And that's how I see it even now in my position, giving up the political leadership of the party and supporting others in the politics to go forward, whom I believe do care deeply about the country and they're deeply about the party and deeply about the people that I care about. So when you hear some people talk about, I'm against them because of they wanting a certain position. I have no interest against anyone. But certainly, as long as I see you, the interest you have and the position you seek is for the people that I love and that they care about their own development. If I see you coming just about for yourself and self-interest, and I'm sorry, I don't care how you feel. I will not be able to give that endorsement for that position. Maybe there are other positions that you may be happy to receive, but I feel so strongly about this. And in my life, one thing people know about me, I'm not somebody can just come and use. I'm a very strong-willed person, and if I don't believe in something, if I see something is wrong, you could be who I would stand up and tell you exactly how I feel. That's been my life story. I got fired from jobs already because I stand up and tell people exactly my position. I lost a position in government already because I refused to take on certain positions that would ask of me certain things to us. And that's what my life is. Therefore, I think it's important. That's why I feel happy about where I'm at today as an individual, and I feel proud to know that I can give back something to the people whom I came from and the people who nurtured me and supported me over the years. So I'm happy to talk about the story because I think it's important for all of us. And that's why, Amanda, I always say I think it's a tragedy that many of our leaders in the past served long and never took the time to write their own stories so that others like myself and others coming after me would be able to learn. Because many of the, so take a gentleman like Eric Gary. This man did a lot for the country, but he never wrote a line about himself. So everything you see written is what people say about them. And there are a lot of people who served in government, who were governor generals, who were top business persons, but they never wrote anything. So people just have to assess what their life based on what others tell them. And so on. That's why sometimes when I listen to certain people in Parliament, they're talking about nothing happened in Grenada in 1983. You don't have a clue. Some of them weren't even born yet, where people are working and building the country. And some of the things they're using today came from people who sacrificed, that they're saying have done nothing. And so on. They don't even know how the mass of telephone services they brought into this country, the modern telephone system. They don't know. They don't know rural electrification, what they're using today. And I heard one of them said recently that the PRG what? PRG. In 1984, when I became minister, only 45% of the country had electricity. We started mass rural electrification by the time 1997. Over 97% of the country. Sorry, not 1990, sorry. Within 5 years, over 90% of the country had electricity because of the work of the New National Party and the people like the Gregory Bowens, the workers at the Grand Lake, and the amount of opportunities that we had. Similarly, pipe-borne water in my own village in Affield. I was minister for water 5 years, and I didn't have water in my home. So we had to bring water throughout length and breadth of the country, pipe-borne water. Today, some people have it, and then some people be saying and Saturday talking about nothing happening really since 1983. And it's so sad when you have, and therefore, that's why I say we have a responsibility to educate our people and to make them, not to knock our chests, because God gave us an opportunity to serve. It's not about us. But at least we must recognize that others before us served. They made contribution, they made sacrifices. And we have a responsibility, a real responsibility, to help others as we go forward, because they have to carry the torch, so to speak.
Well, Doc, you've given a lot of food for thought. A lot of food for thought. You spoke about your childhood and working and your educational background and your faith. But let's take a pin at the point where you said you had applied for that job. at that bank, right? What advice, persons get depressed when opportunities are lost, when doors are closed. But as they say, when one door closes, another one opens. And if you had gotten that job or whatever around that time, maybe you may not have been prime minister today, right? So what advice would you give to a young person out there who has had opportunities just ripped and pulled from right under them, right?
Well,
What advice would you give them when it comes to lost opportunities based on biasness?
well, maybe in the end, maybe that it worked in my favor because those days, Amanda, getting a job in a bank was like the prime job for any young person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe I would have felt so satisfied and sat there and believed I reached where I should be going.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore not having achieved that, gotten that opportunity, it was clearly a disappointment. But maybe I was mature enough to understand the society I was living in, and I didn't allow that to get me down. And immediately afterwards, I got the teaching job at presentation college, and that was the next best job in the country at the time. Teaching a secondary school, the bank first, and then teaching a secondary school was also a major plus for a young person. So so one has to understand, if you are mature enough, you understand the society you're living in. And you understand if you didn't get something, don't allow that to make you feel that's about you. It's about the society. It's about them, not you. So you pursue your goals of opportunity that you want to build for yourself. You do what you have to do, and keep the friendship and company of persons who have ambition. Because if you step into the area of people without serious ambition, and they will tend to want to cry down the whole society and spend all your time talking about ills of the society and what you did not get and what you should get, and then you'll bring yourself down. And then in the end, you happen to succeed only in reducing the opportunity you may have had in your own success. So sometimes you have to put that behind you and say, that one, I didn't get that one. I'll go into the next. Don't let that one, because there's not only one thing out there for you. You may have a goal in life which is the goal, and it doesn't happen. And then you start getting into some kind of atmosphere of depression and saying, well, what else? Who am I? What happened to me? And coming down on your own self and feeling so lost and so on. Instead of saying, this didn't happen, well, you must be disappointed if you're looking forward to something. But don't let it get you down to the point that it can affect you. And sometimes those who may have been responsible for saying that you didn't get it, you give them the benefit of being happy about your loss, when in fact you have to show them that you can move forward onwards without the opportunity that you didn't get. And it's like the story that I always give, the story of the last period of my period of life of political leadership in the country. As prime minister, I was very clear that the 50th anniversary of independence was going to be my swan song, so to speak. So I was looking forward to winning that election in 2023. And 2 years later, as you know, that was going to be 50th, celebrating that, and within a few months give up the leadership of the party and also the country, prime ministership. So it was a great disappointment when we lost. For me to ever say that I was happy, I clearly wasn't happy. There was a little period of depression, but I got over that very quickly. And I say, you know something? This didn't happen. God said that one is not for you. Be happy with what He has for you. And now I'm so much at peace. And I'm so happy with the fact that I don't have the responsibility of job of prime minister at this particular time, because these are tough times, and also it also makes you realize that in everything in life there has to be an end,
Mm-hmm.
and you must always be ready for that end and be satisfied with what you have achieved. And how many people in Grenada, for example, can say they have been as privileged as I am to have had the endorsement of all the people of your country for almost 6 elections,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes winning 15 seats 3 times. I'm
Mm-hmm.
blessed. So how could you be how could you be thinking something wrong with people after they've given you so much endorsements? You should be very happy and thanking them. And that's how I feel about my country. And that's how I feel about the people of my political organization and the people that have supported me politically over the years. So I am at peace and at a stage of my life, doing my autobiography, of course, and that's talking about my life story, because I felt it's necessary that to be in history, therefore, young people, for whatever may come out of it for people looking at my life and the successes and failures, because I've had some, and take it from there. And I feel fortunate to have the opportunity physically, in a position physically, able to do this at this period of my life. So I'm happy to do this.
You mentioned goals, Dr. Mitchell,
Mm.
right? Um, did you ever think a young boy from Rizan, from a poor background, did you ever think you were going to be prime minister?
Never, never. That was the last thing in my head. Come, first of all, I never saw myself as a politician.
Mm-hmm.
My love in life growing up as a young boy was about my achievement academically. I never was satisfied coming second in class. Yes, I never was satisfied not getting a perfect score in especially subject like mathematics. I was never satisfied. Therefore, always striving to do better and to do better and to do better. So, and the second part of my love was cricket. Wherever the cricket match was, I am there, because I loved it. We used to be, same we had a little old radio. We used to listen in radio when Western is playing Australia and England. It's old radio because they had ever ready battery. Them big old battery, and sometimes when them battery they last long, you put it out in the sun to regain some strength to bring it back on. And the radio would give in trouble sometimes. At the height of a cricket match, the radio started giving trouble. A cockroach go inside it, and pound the radio, pound the radio, and get back your communication. And the stories of this is so very much so. So I never saw this politics. In fact, when I went to UWI, I was never even part of the student council. I supported others,
Mm-hmm.
Grenadians, who were running for offices there. And therefore, I was playing cricket for the highest level in Barbados. I remember the team that I started playing cricket in Barbados for was Empire First Division Club, where we had about 4 or 5 test players and West Indies test players on the side at the time. So I felt fortunate that I was able to play on the same team with people that I used to listen to cricket wise and so on. So I loved my cricket and playing it, and also at the same time listening and being part of that whole game. And so cricket and my academic success, and of course being able, the social life was important to me. Being with the boys, being with friends of mine growing up and so on. And that these were the things that. So I didn't see politics was not there. I think what happened was I was always caring about people, and I was vocal when I see injustices taking place. So I used to speak out, and that may have caught the attention of those some people involved in the political life. And because of my popularity as a young man, sports and academic, people wanted me to be involved, and it took a lot of urging and a lot of people coming to me and saying, "Well, look, you're talking, you need to come and help." And that's how I started. I got involved under a lot of pressure, but politics was never the thing. Not about that's something that I thought and I never had any such idea that I was going to be ever involved. If you had told me, in fact, the guys at University in Barbados that knew me and played cricket with me and were with social life, when we came back home, there were three other Grenadians that they knew. They had expected them to be the ones. So they were very surprised when they heard that I was emerging politically in Grenada. They couldn't believe that Keith Mitchell, the cricketer, or the one who was in the mathematics class who did well in math in Kville at the university. They could not believe it was me, because that was not me at the university, and that was not me before I came to university.
You mentioned a lot about your academic achievements. Can you, and as I mentioned, poor boy from Brizan, how do you get from poor to just being prime minister? Can you just take us through your academic journey from primary school right up to university?
Yeah, well, I went to St. Happy Hilarious School and J.W. Fletcher, and I got a scholarship to Presentation College and did A levels and did well. Then I got a UWI scholarship paid by the Canadian government. A few of us got scholarship in 1968 to attend the University of the West Indies, where I studied math and chemistry. I did math, chemistry, and physics the first year, and in the university structure at the time in science, you do the three subjects at the first year, and then you have to drop one after. So I dropped the physics and continued with chemistry and mathematics. And from there, after I finished, both departments wanted me to do graduate work in math or chemistry. And I chose math because I became very interested in an area of mathematics called statistics, and because of the interest, I saw its application to real life stories and so on. So I feel, my own feeling is a lot of the time we solve problems in math, we got grades and we got academic acclaim, but you couldn't see where these ideas or these materials are going to be used in life. That was the first area I saw where I felt I could see the benefit of this. My mathematical skills could have been used in life stories. So that's why I concentrated heavily, and I chose the field of mathematics. And that's why from there I went to Howard, a scholarship to Howard University, did a master's in mathematics there, and then went on to do PhD and did a lot of research work. That's when I got, for example, some consultancy before I was even finished with a PhD because of my research work in estimation theory, where you could predict the results of a particular variable based on the data and facts of historical data using a mathematical formula. So you did a lot of simulation runs in a computer work in those days, a massive computer. We're talking about at this university when the computer room was one big computer, and all of us submit your cards. Those days we didn't have no PC. In fact, if there were PCs, I took about a year and a half to finish my PhD. I probably would have taken about a year, no more than a year. Because you have to submit all these cards. Sometimes about 200 cards into, and there was a guy at the university who was like the technicians, and he was the one you had to submit the cards. So I always give him a little thing to make sure, my cards going. And sometimes you leave, you're going home, and next thing, one little mistake, a typo error in one card, and the computer rejected. So I had to tell him, well, you fix it for me. Because that means I had to come all back down just to do that. Now, if I had a PC, I could have done all this computer runs and the simulation work. And therefore, I immediately got assignments through international organizations, the Department of Agriculture in Washington, the Defense Department. I one time was doing mathematical modeling at the Pentagon for a lot of the generals, simulation work and the mathematical work that they were doing. And I had assignment there through my university contact, and I got work with the Department of Education in Washington. So I served the international organization. I traveled all over Africa. as a mathematical consultant and all these experiences. That's why when I came on, people was into this excitement about travel. I done that and did that. That was not. So I saw my work here as service. I see some people in the job now these days as a politician, all they're thinking about is the trip, the next trip, and the hotel. I'm tired of hotels. I don't want to see it. That's why if you look at my history as Prime Minister, you hardly see me travel. I had to travel. In fact, that part of the job I never liked. I never liked because I'm not a lover of planes. I am not a lover of planes because if I go to Caracou with a plane, I must rest for at least a half day after. Well, the boat is worse because I never riding on planes affected me physically, so I knew that. So I was never excited. I took plane rides just because of necessity, not because I wanted to. But yes, some people that love it and were excited by the travels and living in hotels and shaking his hand. I mean, as Prime Minister, I was at the White House 3 times. How many prime ministers in the Caribbean could say they were in White House, sitting in the White House with President of the United States? Yeah? One time, one-on-one with George Bush. Another occasion, myself and John Howard was the Prime Minister of Australia. 3 of us socializing in the White House. When you pass through this, and I have never made noises about this. Sometimes some people are here, they just meet somebody and they big news. That's it. Well, something wrong with me. The President of the United States, when Ivan called me personally and sent Colin Powell, the Secretary of State, because he called Keith. When George Bush was leaving the presidency of the United States, both himself and his wife sent me a special card that I have home, signed by George and his wife, because of the friendship and relationship that we had over the years. And I said, look at me. Because then I was a member of the International Democrat Union. George Bush was the vice chairman for the Americas. John Howard of Australia was the chairman of the organization and, of course, responsible for Asia and so on. And I was chairman responsible for Latin America and the Caribbean. Vice chairman, sorry. So 3 of us were the top level persons, and we were both prime ministers and, in the case of George, president of the individual countries. So in that context, I had that very strong link over the years. And therefore, the service, I see this about service, my role, and I believe that it's fortunate that I had the opportunity. And in that case, I believe that while there were lots of things I wish could have been achieved, I felt that we did a lot to help people and to improve a lot of the Grenadian people in a general sense. And that's my consolation about my political life.
You mentioned earlier, and we're about to wrap up, but you
Yes.
mentioned earlier that it always bothered you when children from poor backgrounds waste the opportunity for education. How did you remain focused on your goals? Remain focused on your goals, knowing that you came out from a poor background.
Well, in fact, Bernard, I think that's what guided me. Quickly, I realized where I came from and the background I had and the family situation, the poverty. Unless the only thing to take me out of that was education. I got that understanding, and I gave you the story how early in my life I recognized achieving education. It was important. I would not sit by and allow anyone to do better than me in a class and be satisfied. I would try next time to make sure I could pass them. And so I realized education is going to be the key. And I would always urge young people, and I always do that. I've always done that. Remind other young people that whatever else you do, make sure that you don't put education secondary. Education has to be the number one priority, particularly for children coming from poor parentage, because that's the thing. That is the great equalizer, so to speak, that would help you to move away from poverty and to achieve things in your life that you were dreaming to have when you were a young boy. I mean, material things today, when I was a young boy growing up and we didn't have anything, I yearned for some material things. When I saw others enjoying themselves and having basic stuff and I didn't have it. So I really wanted it. And I wouldn't tell him if I was envious of some people that had it and I didn't have. Today, it honestly does not mean a lot because I have the basic things in life that I'm satisfied that I have. And unless there is a major um, um, this problem in my own life that I believe I would have sufficient to cope with things of my life for the rest of my life. So material things doesn't matter. Because in the end, when you're gone, where are the material things? Who you leaving it for? And who you leaving it for? Are you sure they're going to use it appropriately? So enjoy what you have with the time that God has given you and do what you can to lift other people's life. That is what life is all about to me.
I can't leave without asking you because you mentioned it numerous times throughout the session. God. You mentioned God, you mentioned praying in the morning, praying in the afternoon, and that it was mandatory. How important of a role is faith and your spirituality throughout your
Well, I
journey?
think because, as I said, we grew up with a parent, my mother in particular was a very clearly a religious person who had very strong Christian values. I mean, we are taught that there is some supreme being, and you grew up with a clear understanding how did you get here? There must be some supreme being responsible for that. How you got to be in your mother's womb, how you developed there, how you got out, and who took care of you? How did you come from this dear little boy to a big man? And how did you get the different stages of life that you are, where you reached? There must be some basic, to me, a basic understanding of a supreme being. So I always value this and not always live the best religious life. I can't say that I'm a perfect person, far from it so, but I feel hold strongly to believe that there is some life hereafter and that we have to work to achieve it, that goal of our afterlife. And I think one of the fundamental ways to do it is to help others, lift others up, and you will get the benefit later.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell, for your time as usual. And thank you guys out there for tuning in. Just remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Show them